Do you want to run again?
No.
Wait,
No.
that was a pause.
Well, I'd like to be president.
Okay.
Yes. Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton. Is she the worst woman in the world? What do you think? Maybe. She's probably not the worst woman in the world, but she's always aspiring. And there are, it's mostly just tweets flying around the internet that the Democrats are so drunk with their lust for power that now they're talking about dumping Kamala Harris and replacing her with Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton waiting in the wings with a blow dart gun and a pointed stick. Well, happy Tuesday and welcome back. I'm beginning to think the Democrats aren't on our side. What do you think about that? I think it's true. You know, the Democrats, the Biden-Harris administration and their corrupt Attorney General Merrick Garland and the corrupt deep staters and all that, they're up to all kinds of hijinks, all kinds of no good, remarkable stuff. And our great friend Katie Gorka, you know Katie Gorka, her loving husband is Sebastian Gorka. You may know Sebastian Gorka and Katie Gorka, and they're great friends of ours and a ton of fun. Now, Katie is the head of the Fairfax County, Virginia Republicans. She's ran for election, and she's the head of the Fairfax County Republicans. And they just put out a statement today because the Biden-Harris Justice Department, they're suing the state of Virginia, because Virginia and Governor Glenn Youngkin there, Republican governor there, he's cleaning the voter rolls of people that are not citizens because you can't legally vote unless you're a U.S. citizen, right, in Virginia. Now, in Washington, D.C., the Democrats have made it legal for non-citizens to vote because they're dismantling the country from the inside out. They're not pro-American. They're anti-American. They're un-American. They're also ignorant and low IQ, and they have no idea what they're doing, but they think it's hip. And I think they're probably smoking a lot of dope, D.C. City Council and all that. Speaking of which, Trayon White, who thinks that the Jewish Rothschild family controls the weather, he's right. He's going to win in a landslide, I think, come Election Day next month. And what are we, 3 weeks away today? Today is Tuesday. I believe we're 3 weeks away from Election Day. Is that correct? I think that's correct, November 5th. And it's coming. It's ticking out loud. But the Fairfax County, Virginia Republican Party put out a press release, a statement today, just this morning. Fairfax Republicans condemn Biden-Harris Justice Department for interfering in Virginia elections. Governor Glenn Youngkin's decision to prevent non-citizens from voting follows the law. That's the banner headline in the Fairfax Republicans release that just came out a short time ago. Today, the Fairfax County Republican Committee condemned the U.S. Department of Justice for interfering in Virginia's voting process by suing, this is what they've done, by suing Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin for fulfilling his role and, asserting that only legal U.S. citizens are able to vote on November 5th. Now, the Virginia Constitution states that each voter shall be a citizen of the United States. Now, Democrats are undoing that across the country because they want illegal aliens and non-citizens to vote. And in our nation's capital, the left-wing lunatics, with their carjacking rate and their murder rate and their abortion rate, they're like, hey, let's make sure that gang members from Venezuela can cast votes in our election. Isn't that amazing? Just great stuff. So it's an executive order by Glenn Youngkin. It's executive order number 35. It explains, his 18-month period between January of 2022 and July of 2024 that Virginia Department of Elections, which they have an acronym for, it's ELECT, removed 6,303 non-citizens from the voter rolls. And the Democrats and the media are fighting against any effort to clean the voter rolls. And they accuse you of being a racist, and then they abort 40% of the population of black people once again. Now, CBS Fake News, they've got a story from yesterday on the same topic. Trump claims Justice Department sued to add, quote, illegal voters, end quote, to the rolls in Virginia. Here's a fact check. The problem with CBS News is you got to fact check their fact check, because their fact check is just Democrat Party propaganda about 97% of the time. Former President Donald Trump claimed Monday that the Department of Justice was attempting to help Democrats cheat. They put the word cheat in quotation marks on the election, I'd say in the election, by trying to add illegal voters, in quotation marks, to voter rolls in Virginia. And then just the news media is the most corrupt thing. That Trump wrote on Truth Social. One of the greatest examples of DOJ weaponization is the fact that they are suing Virginia to put all of the illegal voters, which were fully exposed and removed by the important work of Governor Glenn Youngkin, back on the voter rolls. Obviously, this was done so that they can cheat on the election. And cheat is in all capital letters there now that President Trump posted. But he and other Republicans mischaracterized a lawsuit filed by the Justice Department, CBS News election law expert says. So they found an election law expert at CBS News that agrees with the Biden administration and the corrupt Justice Department. Maybe you should get another legal expert. Trump's statement followed a lawsuit federal prosecutors filed Friday accusing Virginia officials of removing voters from their rolls too close to the general election in violation of federal election laws. That's pretty amazing stuff. The National Voter Registration Act, which they abbreviate, of course, prohibits states from removing voters from registration lists within 90 days of a federal election. The election expert says to CBS Fake News. Pretty amazing stuff. Now, again, Governor Glenn Youngkin signed an executive order that in the state of Virginia said it would violate the quiet part of the law by doing a list of maintenance. It's taking a look at the voter rolls, and Democrats are, no, we signed up all these illegal aliens. We signed up all these gang members. We signed up all these non-citizens, and you can't stop us because we're going to get the Justice Department under Joe and Kamala to sue the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia. Isn't that amazing? Governor Glenn Youngkin defended his actions in a statement, saying with less than 30 days now until the election, the Biden-Harris Department of Justice is filing an unprecedented lawsuit against me and the Commonwealth of Virginia for appropriately enforcing a 2006 law signed by Democrat Tim Kaine that requires Virginia to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls. But the Democrats, they just want all the illegal voters to be able to vote. And when you point it out, then they go crazy. Well, they show that they're crazy. They don't have to go crazy. They're already crazy. So why do the Democrats fight the Commonwealth of Virginia when Virginia wants to clean the voter rolls? Well, we've got to, and why 90 days? And again, the Democrat former governor signed the bill, and that should make it okay, shouldn't it? Because Democrats, you know how they are. Wah, wah, wah. Now, there are a couple of crazy news stories having to do with the hurricane recovery in North Carolina. We had Hurricane Helene, right, and all that. And also an update on P. Diddy, another Democrat sexual predator. But let me, I see on the big board, Michael, someone that I think would be fun to talk to. Let's go to talking about something we talked about yesterday. Go to Hugh calling from Ball Harbor, Florida. Hugh, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. It's Palm Harbor, Florida.
It's Palm Harbor, Florida.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, the reason why I'm calling is because of these incendiary media reports of armed militia in North Carolina that have been fully discounted, and yet they continue to print them. And it was from an anonymous Forest Service source. They said there were 2 trucks of armed militia that were going to, I don't know, one of those western counties in North Carolina. The National Guard said they encountered no militia, and that was false. The sheriff's department in that area said they picked up one guy that made a threat, arrested him, he made bail and went home, and said there was no credible evidence that there were armed militias hunting FEMA in western North Carolina.
That story broke while we were on the air yesterday in the media, and there was never anything. I mentioned this. I don't know if you were listening yesterday, Hugh, but I said, well, where's the? It's an anonymous. You're right. I think it was a Forest Service anonymous person saw 2 trucks, like pickup trucks, and there were armed militia. And when the Forest Service person said something, somebody said, "We're hunting FEMA," and probably left out the fact that the teenagers then laughed and kept going because they were headed to a pheasant hunt, but they know how to hunt pheasant, unlike Tim Walz. But you're right. You called in about the media, right, Hugh, and what their phony reports on this, right?
Yes, because in the reports I saw, they laid out all that militia stuff in the beginning of the thing, and then in 2 paragraphs at the very bottom, they identify that it was proved. The National Guard and the Sheriff's Department said there was no credible evidence of it. And then on top of it, then they keep doing the same story over again. It's crazy as heck.
Yeah, well, you're on to them, Hugh. That's what I've got to say to you. And we were talking about it yesterday on the air. And then when I was at Newsmax yesterday, I saw that up on the big TVs on the wall. CNN Fake News was reporting the story of one man being arrested. Now, he was at his house, I believe, and the news media is very excited about this because they believe that it buttresses the false report of the armed militia in the pickup trucks, right, in North Carolina. And it's all a big lie. And it's just fake news. It's misinformation. It's disinformation. In fact, the Forest Service person, Hugh, should be arrested and charged like Hillary Clinton once with some kind of a civil or criminal penalty for spreading this misinformation, this disinformation. But,
Yeah, listen, Chris, don't get me started on that skank Hillary Clinton.
Skank. Yeah, well, honestly, there she is. She's the world's worst person, the world's worst woman. Yeah, but CBS News excited, arrest made after threat to FEMA in North Carolina as hurricane relief operations continue. And in the westernmost part, Lake Lure and Chimney Rock, the suspect charged with threatening FEMA worker. And the news media can't be more excited about all this, as nearly 65,000 residents of hard-hit Rutherford County, North Carolina, struggled to clear endless mud and debris left behind by Hurricane Helene. Help hit a roadblock. Federal Emergency Management Agency crews were forced to relocate due to a reported armed threat against workers. First reported by the Washington Post, who can't be believed any farther than you can throw Jeff Bezos. And FEMA said later on Monday it would resume normal operations. But then one person was arrested, not related to the pickup trucks or anything of the kind. In connection to the threat, CBS News misrepresents it right here in paragraph number 4. Out of an abundance of caution, FEMA said disaster assistance teams were being stationed at fixed locations instead of going door to door. Now, here we are. How long is it after Helene hit western North Carolina that a FEMA employee, I don't like to use the Soviet lexicon calling people workers, but a FEMA employee showed up at somebody's door and he told him to go away. He was arrested, then he was let go because he really didn't do anything. The man suspected of making the threat was identified as William Parsons, 44 years old, and And he was angry that people, he's living in ruins, and it's been without electricity, without running water, without all these things. And then some federal person shows up at his front door, and he was miffed, and he told him to go away. And they're trying to link it to this fake report, Hugh, of the trucks filled with armed militia, which, as far as we can tell, is just a false report.
They were probably going deer hunting.
Well, right. I mean, it's hunting. It's a hunting region, and
that's what everybody is armed there because that's a hunting community.
Yeah, and it's I yesterday I said pickup trucks, guys with guns, and what are you doing yelling at the guys going, oh, we're hunting FEMA? Did they all laugh then? Because, that'd be the joke. They're mocking the federal government's failed response in Western North Carolina. And, just more fake news, more fake reports, more misinformation, disinformation. And it was the Washington Post that started this fraud. And then they arrested one guy completely unrelated. And CBS and the rest, they link those two together, trying to buttress their false reporting. Thanks, Hugh.
Adding that National Guard troops had come across trucks of armed militia, saying they were out hunting FEMA. NBC News has not seen the email cited by the Post, and it's unclear whether the threat mentioned was seen as credible.
All right, let's grab a phone call. President Trump is being called an authoritarian and Hitler. He is more Hitler yesterday, too, because the Democrats, they like the rhetoric. I don't think they like the United States. Now, we don't have a ton of time, but let's go to James calling from Gary, Indiana. Gary, Indiana. James, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, James.
Listen, Chris, I just want to thank you for being the working man's mouthpiece. We thank you for that.
Happy I can help.
Chris, I've got three things I want to throw at you, and then I'll get off the phone. One thing is about these flags that these people come to this country and they're flying all over the place. They fly the Mexican flag, all these other flags, and that's great. But why don't they fly the American flag? The way I see it, if they're going to fly that flag and they're going to be so proud of that flag, why did they leave their country?
Well, that's a good question. And, James, I'm running out the clock on you. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to hang in there for a couple of minutes because I didn't mean to give you a short shrift. So hang in there for me, buddy. The Democrats, they love calling everybody Hitler, They love that a lot. But we still have James hanging on the line, calling in from Gary, Indiana. James, thank you for hanging in there. I'm sorry, I need to watch the clock more carefully sometimes. But you were just starting, and they talking about illegal aliens coming into the country and carrying flags, not American flags, but flags from any other beep-hole country that they might have just fled. And they don't seem to be flag-waving Americans that are coming in by the millions under the Democrat Party's leadership. Am I right, James?
Yes, sir, exactly. And I just can't put it together. If you're running from one flag and you're coming to the greatest flag in the country, why would you bring that one with you?
Well, it's almost like they're not on our side and they don't want to come here to be proud Americans. Maybe they're Venezuelan gang members and they're here to plunder and pillage.
Exactly. But, Chris, the other issue that I was going to bring up is, maybe since you're the mouthpiece, maybe you should inform these illegals coming here that if they vote for Harris, they're going to vote for socialism. They're bringing it with them.
Yeah.
But to vote for Trump is to live in a free country.
Yeah. Harris no es bueno. Harris no es bueno, I think, is they're probably not listening to my radio show most of the time, but maybe some are, I'd like to think. But muy especial del flag americano. How about that?
Yeah. Well, Chris, real quick, the last thing that I wanted to bring up is maybe Donald Trump should use Kamala Harris's commercial that she made about young people in college being stupid. Maybe he should put up banners or, signs in front of all these major colleges and let them know what Kamala Harris said exactly about them. And, I mean, that's a cheap commercial.
I got to tell you, we're in a crazy, crazy place, James, and I recognize that you know that. And I love telling the truth about all these things, and it seems to me you like the truth as well. And you like our flag, and I like our flag. The American flag is my flag.
I love our flag, sir.
And it is the greatest flag in the world, and everybody knows it.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, and please keep up the good work. Thank you for being here for us.
You bet your bottom dollar, James. You bet. Gary, Indiana, that's America, man. That's right there. And the Democrats wrecked Gary, Indiana, too. They used to be a great industrial town. Still some industry there. But the Democrats, they're just not good for anything, are they? No, they're not. Thank you, James. The news media and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, they've got it in for Donald Trump. They've already got him shot once and had at least one follow-on assassin. It's the Democrats and the media. And President Trump was talking about, since James was talking about our border and all the illegals coming in and how they don't seem to be patriotic people, anything like that. President Trump he's in hot water again with the crooked media because of something he said, if you can imagine that. And he's talking about using, and it's kind of weird because he was talking about one thing, and President Trump does this. His mind moves along, and he goes from one topic to the next without notifying the crowd. And he's talking about using troops. We've got these gang members from Tren de Aragua out of Venezuela, and we've got the drug traffickers and the cartels and human trafficking and child sex trafficking and all these things going on, and the majority of it coming out of Mexico. And President Trump is talking about using the National Guard or the military to secure our border, to stop the flow of illegal drugs, of gang members, of illegals that are hostile to the United States, flowing into the United States by the millions. And naturally, this made the James Carvilles of the world and others lose what's left of their demented minds. And I want to share with you what President Trump said that got them going on the Hitler train this time.
There are people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You've got, like you said, 13,000 murderers and 15,000 rapists. Right. What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day.
Maria Bartiromo on Sunday, day before yesterday, on Fox News Channel or Fox Business, one or the other. And Maria Bartiromo setting it up, and Joe Biden saying he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful election day. You know, the left is here, and the left is a violent gang of criminals. They put Tren de Aragua to shame. And President Trump responded with this, and this is what really got them going.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. It should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
If necessary, but we got all this, and now the thing is, that was a classic Trump moment, is, we got the biggest problem, the enemy from within, the people that are responsible for the open borders and flying illegals by the millions around the country and flooding Springfield, Ohio and Aurora, Colorado with gang members and Haitians by the thousands and overwhelming communities and towns and cities. And Chicago is dealing with the Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gangs. New York City, more out on that today, of all these youths that are being recruited. They're illegal alien, Venezuelan and other Spanish-speaking youths being recruited by Tren de Aragua. They're committing armed robberies in Times Square and around New York, and none of it is good. Now, some remarkable things to cover in there, and President Trump is saying, hey, we got these really big problems. What about this, and what about the use of military? Now, the CNN anchor stunned speechless by Trump vow, it wasn't a vow, to use military on, quote, enemy within, end quote. And it wasn't really even talking about using the military on the enemy within. His language may have been a little bit fungible, but that's about it. CNN anchor Casey Hunt had trouble finding her words as she broached the subject of former President Donald Trump's promise, wasn't a promise, to use military against, quote, enemy within, end quote, the United States. And that's not actually what happened, but this is what the media does with it. Over the weekend, Trump repeatedly suggested using the military against, quote, the enemy within. And that's an embellishment at best. At a rally in Aurora, Colorado, Trump said, "We have the greatest military in the world, but you have to know how to use them," he said. Okay, and then he said separately, "It's the enemy from within, all the scum that we have to deal with from that hate our country. That's a bigger enemy than China and Russia." Now, that is separate and distinct from his talking about using the military. But they go ahead and put them together because he said them in the same neighborhood, but that's about it. Now, what did James Carville, the Democrat raging Cajun, the buffoon, the goon, the loon, hey, that rhymes. He was on CNN, and where did he take this? Well, to crazy land, of course. Here's Democrat, Clinton administration, political guru, and media Democrat Party guru. And here we go with this stuff.
He would actually go on television and say, "I'm going to use the military to round up my political enemies."
Not what he said.
That he was going to schedule a rally at Madison Square Garden to mimic the Nazi rally of 10 February 1939.
Not what he said. Not what he said. Just not what he said, and not what he said. Just fabricated by this mental case named James Carville, who is, honestly, the Democrat Party started the first Civil War in the United States, 1861, firing on Fort Sumter, creating the Confederate States of America because they wanted their slaves to stay on the plantation. Now they're going to give them free pot and loans you don't have to pay back because that's good stuff. And, and I got it there. So there it is. The Hitler, when did he say he was going to round up his political enemies? He didn't say round up. He didn't say his political enemies. He said the enemies of the United States that hate our country living within. And they convert it to that. And these idiots like Casey Hunt, who is a certified idiot, it's the League of Idiots have certified her as such. And she sat there, "Oh no, Hitler is coming," and just absolutely crazy stuff. Now,
he's saying that these people should be handled by the National Guard or
these
the
people.
Military.
Who are these people?
What? I think we've learned a lot about whether or not we should believe Trump when he says things, which is to say he is to be believed.
Or not.
We're at the point where he's saying, "I'm going to use the National Guard and the military to take my political enemies out of the country."
Where did he say that? Because we just listened to what he said, and he didn't say my political enemies, and he didn't say to take my political enemies out of the country. None of that was said. But if you watch CNN, and if you're dumb enough to take seriously what they say, now here's People magazine, then you're going to be an ignorant Democrat, and you're probably going to vote Democrat, and that's why the Democrat propaganda machine propagates this lunacy. That and their innate mental illnesses. Here's People magazine's headline: Donald Trump compared to Adolf Hitler, no kidding, after vowing to invoke 1700s law used to justify Japanese internment camps. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which gives the president power to detain and deport foreign, quote, enemies, end quote. You know, whenever they have one word in quotation marks, you should always be suspicious of what they're doing. I've been pointing this out for many years. Could be broadly applied to target any non-citizens that Trump declares a threat. Now, they conflated two separate things that he was talking about. The threat from within the country is talking about corrupt Democrat leadership and the bureaucracy that waves in millions of illegal aliens and gang members and child sex traffickers. And then they shout you down when you say that there are gangs taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, and Haitians in by the thousands in Springfield, Ohio. You're the bad guy. I'd like to point something out to the dimwits at People magazine and people that they don't know, people that don't know these things, but Kyler Alvord at People magazine typed up this piece for the Democrat Party. It was the Democrat Party that interned Japanese Americans in internment camps. Many of them were American citizens. Some were Japanese nationals from outside of the country. And by the way, some of them were with subversive Japanese organizations sent into the United States by the Japanese, but not a great many of them. Now, the 1700s law to justify the internment of the Japanese, the only time it's ever been used to intern anybody was when the Democrat Party liberal hero, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and his vice president, Harry Truman, used the law to throw Japanese, including, again, American citizens of Japanese origin, into internment camps, Manzanar and beyond. But People magazine, Donald Trump is vowing to invoke a 226-year-old law. They had to break out their Bomar calculator to justify mass detainments and deportations in the United States. Well, you know, you look at what the law is when the Democrats wave in millions and millions and millions of illegal aliens to the country, and we have Venezuelan gang members taking over multiple apartment complexes, and the news media says it's just a handful of multiple apartment complexes. Pay no attention. But saying that Election Day will be known as Liberation Day if he's handed the keys to the White House. The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is widely condemned. It has a widely condemned immigration law that gives the president sweeping powers to bypass equal protection, kind of like Kamala promising loans that you don't have to pay back, but only if you're black. And you can get pot stores where you can sell pot because Kamala knows what black people want, and they want pot stores because then I got high. You know what I'm talking about. And so just the news media is the most corrupt institution in America. And they've corrupted our democratic processes and our system of electing presidents and senators and House members and governors, but pay no attention to all of that. Aren't they amazing? So he's Hitler. And it's perfectly normal, of course. Perfectly normal for the Democrats to call Trump Hitler. Again, while the Democrats literally exterminate more than 1 million babies a year in the womb and celebrate it and fight for more, including 40% of the black population, and they oppose Israel and chant from the river to the sea, as they did yesterday in New York, down on Wall Street, protesting against Israel. Why on Wall Street would they do that, the Democrats?
It is outrageous. It's horrifying, but it's expected from a fascist authoritarian person who wants to create havoc in this country, who wants to take us to Nazi Germany. I can't even talk, Nazi Germany.
Democrats, they all go to Harvard, and then they talk about wiping Israel off the map, exterminate 40% of the black population year after year, and then they call you Hitler? Yes. All right, let's go to the telephones once again. Let's go to David, calling from the city of Chicago, listening on the great WLS. David, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hi, Chris. Good morning, sir. How you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Sir, it is amazing to speak with you. Ever since I've been introduced to you via WLS in Chicago, you're like the man said earlier today. You're the mouthpiece of the working man. So we appreciate everything you say and you do. And real quickly, before I get to Mr. Bill Clinton from yesterday, I've actually renamed Chicago and I've respelled it. So instead of CHI, I put an SHI, and then before the C, I put a T. So you're a smart guy. You can probably figure that one out, right?
I can figure that out. I can, yeah.
So my comment on Bill Clinton yesterday is he's sitting there talking about we need these illegals in here because we're not repopulating enough. We're not having enough babies. And at the very same time, they want to abort all the babies that become, the women that become pregnant.
And they want to reduce the population of the country and reduce the population of the planet.
Well, I think they want to reduce the population of the hardworking American people and bring in, and I've been to Caracas, Venezuela. I used to date an oil executive's daughter, and that place is a bleep hole, and that was 25 years ago. I can't imagine what it's like now. And I experienced what people here experience, where they're going around on their scooters, stealing from people and everything. So these are the people they want to bring into the country and populate our country, yet let American women have abortions just because they got too drunk one night and shouldn't have did what they did.
It is rather ironic. And you know what? I'll play I just ran out the clock on playing the Bill Clinton audio, but I'm going to play it for you because we have it and was going to play it today. But what they want is, they talk about the browning of America, right? And they talk about the population bomb they've been talking about forever, for generations now. Need to reduce the population of the country, reduce the population of the planet. We're overpopulated. And then Bill Clinton says, well, we in the United States are not having enough babies to do all the, cleaning dishes and lawn care, as the Democrats always talk about illegal aliens and other immigrants coming to the United States to be their servants. But I tell you what, David, I'm going to play what Bill Clinton said coming right up in a GIF, and the hypocrisy, the mental illness of it all.